Welcome, everybody. I have with me a wonderful guest and one of the best vocalists I have ever heard singing here in New Mexico. Hillary Smith, thank you very much for joining me today. It's an absolute honor.
Michael, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. How are you?
I am doing wonderful, thank you. Even better now that I get to talk with you. So let's talk a little bit about your past because I know you're from Hobbs, right? Were you born and raised in Hobbs? I mean, that would make you a native New Mexican, is right?
You know what? I was actually adopted here in Albuquerque, and my mom and her husband at the time, they adopted me. I was 6 weeks premature, went home the next day. And so I was raised in Hobbs, New Mexico, and that makes me a fourth generation New Mexican.
Awesome.
So,
That's
yeah.
great.
Oh, yeah.
So did you, I take it then you graduated from Hobbs High School
I did.
from there. So where did you go? So where did you go from there? From once you finished high school, what did you do? Tell me some more about your background.
Well, I did the Rotary Exchange Scholar thing. I went to Durban, South Africa, actually a little suburb of Durban, Amanzimtoti, and I was there for several months, and then came back and then did University of New Mexico. And much to my parents' delight, I dropped out to sing in a band, and so then I was a cook, a dim sum at Amerasia, which at that time was on Cornell. Do you remember Amerasia?
Yes, I do, very much
Yeah.
so.
Han and Mickey, who was the owner, and Han,
Yeah.
her number one, they trained me how to make dim sum. So I've completely lost that skill.
So let's talk about your singing. Were you so obviously you sang at a young age. You had to have sung at a young age. So did you sing in the choirs when you were in high school? What did you I mean, tell me more about your vocal background.
Well, I will share this with you. My mom has this story that's her favorite story to tell. Back in the days, like in the 60s, when the bar was part of the restaurant and children were just part of all of it, and
Hmm.
everybody was smoking. And anyway, we were in this like little lounge, and evidently there was a trio. And at 3 years of age, my mom said that I jumped off her lap. And, Michael, some things never change. I went and sat in the drummer's lap. It still happens. And anyway, and I said, and I kept hearing them say, hit it. And I asked my mom, I'm like, what are they wanting? What are they wanting to hit? And she just that means start
Yeah.
song. So evidently I sat in the drummer's lap and I said, Jesus loves me, hit it. And they accompanied me. And that was my first gig, Michael.
Oh, very nice.
The pay was lousy,
Oh yeah, well, they're kind of gratuitous type of thing, but yeah. So
So
did you take lessons and stuff when you were in Hobbs and you were growing up? Did you sing in the high school choirs?
sang in the high school choir, sang in church, uh and then my friends, there were the gospel churches,
Hmm.
there were the black gospel churches, and I had a number of friends and family like friends that grew up in those churches. And so that was that was college, that was the education, that
Yeah.
was everything I ever needed to know about spirit and music and singing. And to this day, I was just there and went to a benefit for Russell White, who is from Hobbs, who is the best singer on the planet. And those bonds are still so deep. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
everything really that I've learned began in those churches.
Oh, I bet. And you know what? That you think about the when you someone is singing gospel and that and the enthusiasm and the emotion that comes through, it's absolutely amazing. And I hear that when you sing because you always sing with this beautiful, just big, beautiful sound and this emotion. So when you got to University of New Mexico, you said you came up here and you were studying at UNM. Did you study music or were you studying something else?
Yeah, when I went to class, I was studying it. Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
the way you said that. When you
I,
went to
I was
class.
I was a terrible student. I just have to tell you, I was terrible. And then I had a theater minor.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so somehow I made it to those classes. There was no theory involved. Anyway, but yeah, I did that for about 2.5 years. I did that for
Okay.
about, but I learned how to play piano through there. And so that was cool. And I took
See,
piano lessons growing up. Again, a
okay.
wonderful student, but my dad was an incredible pianist. And
Okay.
yeah.
Well, you answered my next question because I see the piano in the background there, and I was going to ask you if you played any other instruments. And now you've answered that question. You also play piano, which is, most vocalists I know do play piano. There are a few that don't, but it's nice to hear that you actually play piano and you sing. So now you said you were a theater minor. Did you do any musicals and stuff like that?
I did a couple things with Akloa. I did
Okay.
Godspell, and then I did a bunch of musical theater like in high school
Mhm.
and different things like that. But no, I haven't done it lately. I haven't done it.
No, well, you were too busy with your own career, which I understand completely. But I was just curious, it's that background thing that some people don't know these things.
Yeah.
Some people aren't sure. They're like, well, I don't know. I enjoy listening to her, but I don't know anything about her. Well, see, now we're learning some good things. So you moved to Albuquerque when you finished high school and you moved here for UNM. And at that point, you said you dropped out and you decided that you wanted to sing and you were singing in a rock band. Is that correct?
No, I was singing with Fat City that still
Oh,
plays now. And
yes.
that was and there was a little club on Central called the Annex 2 that was across from Ned's.
Hmm.
And those of us from the 80s know all about that corner
Yes, we do.
from what we can remember. And and that was, I probably get in trouble, but I would break out of the Kappa house on Sunday nights to go sit in at the jam sessions, underage, would go in. And let me tell you, she's in heaven now, but Sandra von Valkenburg, her daughter is Victoria Panana. She and her husband was John Eiseminger. They had
Okay.
the BCN project, incredible musicians. But Sandra was Victoria's mother. And again, arguably the best female vocalist I've ever heard in my life. And she was singing with Fat City, and she kind of decided to take a step back. And I was on probation. I barely got hired. I knew all the songs because I would go on Sundays and
Right.
learn songs. So I was the easiest pick. I, there were times that I got some booze because I was kind of Barbara Mandrelling it a little bit, out of Hobbs. And anyway, it wasn't all great. It was an education.
Yeah.
And Robert Blea, he is formidable in a good way, in that he takes no guff. He has no filter. He has no problem telling you, and I hope he sees this because he knows I love him, but he has no problem telling you what you need to do. And you know what? As much as at the time I was kind of offended and my little feelings got hurt, I mean, he taught me. He taught me, and that was kind of the beginning of me working in the club scene here in Albuquerque.
Nice.
I was young, but it's kind of the push I needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've done so well with it. I mean, I love listening to you sing. So you have had quite the career performing. And you have performed with just about everybody. As you said, your first band that you worked with was Fat City. And you have worked with Chris Jacob and you have worked with so many different people. So tell me some other bands besides your current bands. We're going to talk about your current bands. So
Yeah.
tell me some of the other groups that you have worked with over the years.
Well, I will tell you, my very first band was a trio in Hobbs, and we played, country western and a little trio, and we were called the Skillet Lickers. And Now, my life story, I had a thing for the little guitar player, but he loved the beautiful blonde, so ever since then, that's kind of why I hate country western music. I'm kidding. Oh, yeah. Anyway, that was my first band. And then there was this little rock band that I was part of called Autograph. We were Autograph before the real Autograph.
Yeah. Okay.
I bought one of those Rhodes. It looked like an orca. It was gigantic. I don't even know how I hauled that thing
Yeah.
around.
Big old gigantic Fender Rhodes piano.
Yes, and I knew just enough piano to really make the band sound awful. So, that was a short-lived career. I don't I don't think they let me stay. So anyway, so that was the next one. And then I came here, and then there was Fat City, and then Joe Buffalino,
I
kind of
remember Joe.
whole market. And there was a man called TJ Smith, incredible drummer. He was the drummer for Sassy Jones, which was
Hmm.
pinnacle bar star band in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
To this day, Michael Tinker is the best. He's the best front man ever in life. He really was. He fantastic. So anyway, TJ came to hear me sing at the Annex, and he told Joe Buffalino, I want to front a band. And he and Joe were like this. And Joe said, I'll do whatever you want, but I don't want this girl. She's green. She's heavy set. She doesn't really do, what you need her to do. Cause this is the 80s. It's
Yeah.
all blondies that you want to feed a sandwich to. So,
Yep.
and I'm really not, and it is so more so than any other decade I can remember. And, so, I mean, the criteria, he
Yeah.
kind of had to fit he didn't want me. And I love Joe and he loves me, but he knows that's true. And TJ says, well, I'm doing it with her. I'm not doing it. So they kind of nabbed me, and I got thrown into the Heights club scene.
Hmm.
And that band was called Motion Picture.
Oh, I remember Motion Picture.
Yeah. So that band was Motion Picture. And then Stephen Katz, who to this day is one of my best brothers, he's like a superstar in the Virgin Islands now. A few years out of Motion Picture, we created a band called Strictly Taboo.
Yep.
Yep. And so that happened for a while. And then there was, of course, then there was another little band called Saint Cadillac that,
No, that one doesn't ring a bell.
well, we didn't play very often. And then actually, and then there was another little band after that, but never got off the ground because I became pregnant.
Oh,
So moved back to Hobbs, did that whole thing. And then I was out of it for a while.
right.
Yeah.
So when did you get because I know we're about the same age, and I will discuss, we both grew up in that time. So now I know exactly the scene that we're talking about because I remember that era.
Yeah.
So very well, actually, and not as well as I should, but I do remember that era.
I don't have a lot of recollection. I remember it was a lot of fun.
As a freelance musician, you have to work hard to get gigs. There are plenty of gigs here, but you got to work at it. Do you find that now you've made a name for yourself, but when you were first coming back and you were trying to be a freelance musician like this, and as you got to play more, did you find it was harder or easier to get gigs?
You know, I've been pretty fortunate. I really have been pretty fortunate. I mean, I hustle. I mean, there hasn't ever been a band that myself and usually another band member or two, we do the booking, we do the calling, we scout out new gigs, we do the negotiating. And then in Honey House, that's a tour schedule. And Yvonne really takes care of most of that. I occasionally will get a gig out in this area,
Okay.
but it's usually a dual effort, and you do have to hustle. But I will say I haven't been told too often, no, you can't play here. I have been told we can't pay you that,
Right.
but I have a lot of confidence. I have a lot of confidence in the musicians that are my brothers and sisters that I work with. And I have a lot of confidence in the listeners of Albuquerque. The truest, most faithful, devoted following, just I don't, is extraordinary to me that year after year after year we have these righteous friends that just keep supporting us and keep throwing money in the tip jar and sending us snacks, and it's just the sweetest people. I mean, I know that sounds kind of rainbow and unicorns, but really, it really is the listeners, because they come out to a new venue and they don't want to pay us this. And it's not that we're so great, but it's that our listeners will come out and support us, and they order, and they're great tippers. And then the establishment will see that. So I give total props. I give total props to the folks that come out and hear us, because
Well, yeah.
that propels us from gig to gig. You know,
Okay, yeah,
they show
you have a humongous fan base. Everybody, you see your name, and everybody recognize that you have a lot of name recognition, and that's a great thing actually because it allows you to be that freelance musician. And as you said, yes, you have to hustle to get the gigs, but once you've got them, people will support you, and that's a good thing. And New Mexico has a great crap. Well, how do I say this? They have a we have a great sense of community to support live music here in town. We
Mhm.
really do. I've gone to my fair share of performances, places where I would be like, I've never been here before, and you walk in and the place is packed.
Oh
And
my.
it doesn't matter whether it's you or anyone else. The live music is supported here in New Mexico. That's that, and I get that comment from a lot of musicians that I talk with, is that people will support live music, and that to me is absolutely amazing. I think it's a great. It says a lot for our city, and it says a lot for our state.
Amen.
So, so let's talk about some of the bands that you work with now on a regular basis. Because, and you'll correct me if I miss one. You work a lot with Chris Dracup, right? Did I say that right? Okay.
Yes.
You
Yes.
also are. You also have your own band called Chill House, and that is a wonderful band with Glenn Coster and all those guys. You work with Honey House, and you also work with the Albuquerque Jazz Orchestra. Did I miss any? Did I get them all?
Well, it's not as it's pretty infrequent, but I just have to say it because I love these brothers so much. The Santa Fe Music Collective, and I do a few shows a year with them, and that's John Trinacosta, Terry Burns on bass, Bob Fox on piano, and Alex Merzin on
Yes.
saxophone. And so that's an excellent quartet that, you know, those, like I said, those dates are only a few times a year, but I cherish them.
Oh, good. Okay. So you talk about a very diverse sense of musicianship because when you work with Chris, what kind of music do you guys play?
You know, all the blues, you know,
Right.
we like the Delta stuff, we do the slide stuff, we do, you know, like going back to the Sun House days, but then we'll do
Okay.
Foster, Bonnie Raitt, and then we have, you know, a few pocketfuls of originals, but it's usually in that blues, funky blues, throwback blues kind of vibe.
Okay. And now with Chill House, you guys play a lot of R&B, you guys do a lot of rock.
Primarily blues. Our CD that we're in the studio with is primarily blues. There's some soul stuff on there too, but that's
Okay.
kind of where we're coming from. We don't really do rock, but you know, sometimes I just gotta scream, and
Well,
so it
yeah.
can probably be construed construed as rock.
No,
My
well, but you got our good. I mean, good R&B is in a rock sense. You've still got the drummer doing backbeats and all that other things. So it's R&B and a lot of blues. Now, tell me about Honey House because I don't know. I know absolutely nothing about Honey House except for I know you guys do a lot of originals. What kind of music is that?
It's all original. We started out as a three-piece, and it was three vocals, three vocal harmonies, and a guitar, and then we added a cajon. And then right now, presently, it's Yvonne Priya, who's out of Amarillo, and then Danielle Andrade, who was Al Hurricane's bassist forever, and now she
Mm-hmm.
works with Hurricane Jr. And then Diane DeLeon, who's on cajon most of the time. Sometimes we can get her behind some traps, but mostly it's on cajon. And Mandy, we miss her. She was the other vocalist powerhouse soprano. And but you know what? She has a teenager and she has a 4-year-old. And after the pandemic, and we kind of knew it was coming. We knew that she was winding down because we would spend months and months, not consecutively, but months over the course of a year on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just too much. It was too much. And so she's not touring with us or performing with us now, but we love her.
So what
So
kind of music do you guys play? Besides, I mean, you said originals, but give me an idea of what kind of music is it?
well, I tell you what, when Mandy was in the band, she would come from more of like a folk American, you know, more of like a
Yeah.
folk country place. Yvonne is more of kind of like a Sheryl Crow kind of that
Okay.
rock, but softer little bit, you
Mhm.
know, and just standard. That sister writes the best hooks. Like she's amazing. She's amazing. And of course, you know, my stuff, I just yell a lot, you know, and just show a lot of cleavage. That that's my contribution. No, I'm always, my songs are either, highly dirty and naughty, or they're about Jesus, or they're about my children. Pretty much those three things.
Yeah.
Just that's it. Yeah. We cover all the big things.
Oh, that's too funny. And then the last one, I know you, and I have worked with you. I have been in rehearsals with you. You do work for the Albuquerque Jazz Orchestra, and you sing with them at their monthly gig, and you do the big ones that you guys did out at the Albuquerque Museum for the Jazz Workshop this year. You are absolutely wonderful when you sing with them. The way you come across and the way you stand up there, it really gives me that 1950s, 1960s vibes of the female vocalist standing in front of a jazz orchestra. Do you like? I mean, you have to like doing that. You have to, right?
It's the best. I mean, it's this wall of beautiful sound. It scared me to death for years. I would say probably it's only been in the last, year that I have really, really felt comfortable. They're just such incredible musicians, and there's a ton of them.
Yeah.
And it's a train. It goes with or without you.
Okay.
So you gotta be dialed in, and it's a thing, but I love it so much, and
Well, yeah.
it has added so much more listening. I do so much more listening, and Glenn Coster's, he is awesome about just like, listen to this, check her out, listen to this one, and so it's just provided this whole other level of education, and I love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
hope it's forever. I love
Oh,
it.
it's such a great gig, and I love to listen to you play and sing. Sorry, I should say I love to listen to you sing with that group because it's such a great. Hey, you know what? Vocalists play their vocal cords. All right, I get it, but I love to listen to you sing with them because one, your choices of music are absolutely great. The songs fit you perfectly. They fit you to a T. But when you get up there and you sing, it's just something magical happens with that group. The group sounds great. Without you, they add you, and it just changes the dynamic. I have no other way to explain that to you.
Well, that I'm humbled. Thank you. It's humbling just to be in that cast of musicians.
Well, you deserve it. You are of that high caliber, so don't sell yourself short with that.
So sweet. Thank you.
So what is yours? You said being such a diverse musician, right? Is there a particular style of music that you prefer to sing over all the other different styles, or you just love to sing?
I was thinking about this one, and I think everybody would think, oh, I would rattle off, doing a Chaka Khan cover, but I really kind of had to swirl this question around, Michael. And you know what? My favorite thing to sing is like a Johnny Mercer ballad,
Oh,
jazz standard, just something torched up and beautiful, beautiful lyrics, something that's nice and laid back. And, that's my favorite. That is
nice.
my most favorite thing to sing.
Interesting, because I saw you when you sat in over at the Cactus Brew House back in, must have been late July, early August, and you came and sat in the first set for their jam session, and you did exactly that. You sang what I call a torch song, right? And so it's that ballad, that kind of like not too slow, not too fast ballad. You absolutely belted it out. And I sat back there and I was just like blown away by the way you sang it. So I can see how you would like those. I love torch songs,
I do.
and you sing them really well. So it's interesting that you would say that's your favorite
It's my
style to sing.
it is, and I also have to say I think it's my favorite because my friends that will play those jazz gigs with me, because they're always just so intuitive and
Mhm.
emotive. Those ballads only sink in when you've got everybody on board, just kind of feeling it, and
Yes.
so anyway, I'm just so blessed with the music that I get to work with. I can't, I mean, I could say it 100 times and it wouldn't be enough, man.
Okay. Well, so now I know you write your own songs and you do a lot. You said you do a lot of originals or mostly originals with Honey House. Do you do any other originals with some of the bands that you work with Chill House and with Chris and any? Do you do some of your originals too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
Oh,
Chris and I co-wrote years. And so we got a bunch that we do pretty much on any given show. And then in Chill House, Jim Casey writes. Of course, we have Glenn Coster. So this is what you don't know. Chill House has added a horn section that we get to use periodically, and it's called the High City Horns, and it's a 5-piece horn section.
yes.
Unbelievable. And he writes and arranges all those things. But Jim Casey is the prominent writer. And I'll get in there and I've written, let's see, one, two, I think 3 songs for this
Okay.
album. Three
Okay.
songs. And then I managed to mess up everything else that Jim wrote.
You did not. I seriously doubt that. So let's talk about some of your recordings because I know that you have done one album under your name specifically, and that was the 2008 release called No Easy Way, right? Is that one still available for, I mean, can you buy that? Is it available online on any of the streaming services?
I believe it's on Spotify.
Okay.
I honestly don't know. I have run out of all physical CDs, and I know that I need to put an order in, but I know that we're also kind of flipping formats pretty actively, but still I like to have CDs. I love to have CDs. I love to have an entire album. I like it. I like to put it in. I like to read all the stuff, so I don't know. I'll still, I need to put it in order. I need to.
Yeah. So now you have an album coming out with Chill House.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Like I said, it's all original. And oh wait, actually no, there's 4 songs and because another one I co-wrote with Terry Deers
Okay.
out of Santa Fe, great vocalist, instrumentalist, awesome. But it's blues. There's a throwback to kind of a Delta vibe. There is this kind of soul ballad in there that really doesn't line up with the whole blues thing, but we're putting it on there anyway. And
Okay.
Ron Crowder is doing he's laying all the tracks down for us. And Ron is just what a love brother, so that's something that I have to say about Chill House. It is a family. It is. I feel that way about every band, but it's so nice at this age, at this place in all of our careers, that we really have become best of friends, and just as I will say this, I feel like I can do my own standing up for myself, but I tell you what, it's very cool to have 4 brothers that are just ready to get your back,
That's
so
nice.
it
Well,
is
and
very
it's all, when you're making music with friends and people that you know and that you work with on a regular basis, it makes all the difference in the world.
well,
So
it is. And Honey House too, though they're my sisters, they front just, yeah, it's a very sweet time,
so
Michael.
when is this album for Chill House supposed to be released?
Well, it started before the pandemic, and I cared for my mom a lot during the pandemic, so I wouldn't go anywhere near the studio.
Right.
So, and I'm still doing a little bit of traveling with Honey House. So we're hoping by the holiday, it'd be so great to have a Christmas release,
Yes.
just that would be perfect. So I think we're aiming for that, but we got to wrap it up. And it's
Okay.
mostly, I'm usually the one I'm the stick in the mud. Everybody down because I have to redo everything.
No, you're like me. You're a perfectionist. You were recently inducted into the New Mexico Hall of Fame. Is that correct?
It is.
When was that? Was that like this year, last year?
Was last year, and unbelievable to me. I think they're just so amazed that I'm still living, and we better give her an award quickly. But no, I can't even say what that means. And I will say this. I will say that, and I mentioned this during the night as well, that my daddy and my mom, especially my dad, education was everything. It was a and I'm the oldest, it was a huge deal when I dropped out of school to start singing. But I knew, as long as I can remember knowing, that's what I wanted to do. I knew it. I knew it. And I probably should have, not probably, I should have finished school, but this was the education I preferred. This is what I wanted. And, you know, it was a heartbreaker for my family. You know, I was the oldest, you know, it was a heartbreaker. But to receive that kind of award did feel a little bit, not a lot, because, you know, I don't know what it's like to be that kind of dedicated student, but you know what it's like to be dedicated in what you do, you know, and I would challenge anyone that says they love it more than I do, because I love it. So I love every aspect of it, but that felt a little bit like a diploma, a little bit.
Well, it should feel a lot like it because it's recognition of all the things that you have done for the music in New Mexico over the course of your career. And you shouldn't sell that short because you have contributed to so many excellent bands and so much good stuff here in New Mexico. Don't sell yourself short, Hillary. That's a great honor. And I think it's well deserved. I think it's something that you should be extremely proud of because they're honoring you to say to you, you have contributed, you have done, we know this, we need to honor you of this. And I think that was awesome. So that was the 2021, you were inducted in the 2021 New Mexico Hall of Fame, is that correct?
Yes.
That is congratulations. That's the best way to put it. Congratulations. Well deserved. Well deserved. All right. So now I've got time for one more question. And I warned you about this. I always ask these questions, right? So tell me an anecdote, strangest gig, funniest story. Give me an anecdote that you can tell me without getting anyone in trouble, although it's always good when you do. Give me something that people will find hysterical.
Okay, so I was working with TJ Smith, and back in the 80s, if you remember, there was a place called Friars North,
Yes.
And it had nickel beer night. You remember that? You could not park 2 miles. I would have to get to the gig 2 hours early to have a parking place. You could not park. All right, packed, huge high dance floor.
Yeah.
At some point, and TJ was so smooth, man. He just kind of had this like rock, and he would occasionally do this thing, you know, with his microphone, you know, the kind of lasso it around and pull it back down, you know, total rock star move. This night, he didn't quite catch it. He was like swinging his microphone. There's 500 people on the dance floor. It goes like a fly fishing reel. It goes 30 feet.
Oh, no.
Audience. And it's connected. And I'm just like, what are we gonna do? I mean, this is all real time. And he just starts.
Yeah, just pulling it back.
You can hear above the cajillion speakers, all the people, you can hear the somehow, by God's good grace, on the stage, there's not a dent in it. It's still connected. And without missing a beat, he's like, she's an easy lover. He doesn't even miss a beat. He doesn't even miss a beat, man.
Oh.
And never forget it. I will just never forget it. But I just remember.
Oh, that is just hysterical.
We could barely stand up.
Oh, no, you can't write these things. It's amazing. The stories that I have gotten from musicians, you can't make this stuff up. You can't. It's amazing. Listen, we're out of time. Hillary, I want to thank you so much for joining me. You have such a beautiful personality, such a great fan base. We look forward to hearing you for years and years and years to come. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.